It's 5:30 in the morning and I have to pee. Not unusual for a man of a certain age. I have to pee real bad, and let's call that certain age my mid-50s. But I lie in bed, frozen in fear, hesitant to move lest I make the bed squeak or disturb this mattress, which is too goddamn soft. I'm terrified that the creature next to me will wake up, and then my sleep will be done, and today will be off and running. This creature is a 20-pound baby. That's right. I'm 56, and I'm the father of a baby conceived and born in the middle of the first serious pandemic of our lifetime. She is back there. I've always done things the easy way. Scene. She's sad in her sleep. Her eyebrows flutter and scowl. Her little lips pucker and frown. Whispers of her mother's expressions scuttle across the surface of chubby infant skin. She's a helper. Emily asks her to find the olives. First, she peeks around the corner to where the pantry cabinet used to be. It's not there. We moved it last week. Emmy points to where it is now. She scrambles over to it, opens the door, grabs a can of black beans, spends a few minutes looking at it, examining it closely. Emmy just lets her be. A couple of minutes later, she crawls over to Emily with a small can of olives in her hand, beaming. I told a colleague I hadn't seen in a while that we had a baby during COVID. She said, "Don't you have grown kids?" "Yes, I do. 2 young women, 26 and 22. "Oh God," she gasped. "Why would you do that to yourself again?" She doesn't have any children. How can she understand? On these cool, overcast mornings, the winter birds are active. This morning, we've seen scores of house finches, house sparrows, yellow-throated vireos, goldfinches, Carolina chickadees, Carolina wrens, bluebirds, tufted titmice, and a couple of plump mourning doves who settled in after the rush hour of smaller birds. We watched them at our feeders in Hanging Fountain, with her in my arms, head on my shoulder, as we listened to Tom Petty's Wildflowers. The world outside can be painful. It's a grind, can feel relentless, often ruthless and unjust. In those moments, I must remember this, the real life, watching birds with my baby. So the next one goes the other way. My oldest daughter is 26 and she lives with her mother, and I live in constant fear of her being consumed by my ex-wife. So Mommy wants to get a puppy together, she told me on the phone while she was talking to the baby. The news sliced me inside. After the call, we walked from the canal back along a trail to a kayak launch on a salt marsh. The baby and my wife watched white butterflies flirt and wheel and kiss a patch of clover flowers. The little one laughs, we all laugh. She shows them, crinkles her nose, sniffs and smiles. Coming back, I heard a high yawp. An osprey complained from her dome atop a tall pine. I heard but did not see her chicks. She launched herself into the limitless breeze, above the marshes and canals, a gliding blade to bring a living sacrifice back to her nest. Tonight I held the baby closely. As I danced her to sleep, her body melted into mine. My eyes welled up with memories. 25 years ago, another daughter with another mother melted into my body like this. She still lives with her mother. Now they are getting a puppy together. Got a couple here, sort of pre-COVID, COVID poems. This first one I wrote at the beginning of the fall, right before COVID hit. And when I look back and see it, it seems, I don't know, prophetic, maybe ironically. There's just weird stuff going on, so it makes me feel a way. Maybe it'll make you feel a way. Summer's End. Tonight, A sliver of a silver moon teases her existence from the night sky. Along the ecliptic plane, faint Jupiter shows his face, 2 hand-widths above the horizon. I never see him in the city. Electric lights belie his majesty. Even here on St. George Island, he only reveals himself to those who search, a waning god. The moon will continue to wax, but Jove withers, almost invisible. Today, coming in from the beach, I saw my grandfather's body peering at me from a mirror. Yesterday, I was a slender young palm, like the one Ulysses saw in Delos. Summer is closing, but I don't mourn its passing. Autumn brings its own pleasures, and winter is not the end, but a respite. Some will see a new spring. This one, my computer tells me I wrote this one on March 9th, 2020. And to put that into some context, that was a Monday. On Wednesday the 11th, the NBA suspended its season. On Thursday the 12th, the NCAA canceled March Madness. And Friday the 13th, President Trump declared a national emergency. So this was the Monday of that week. Recycling. The world had grown old again, sagging, stale. I took the old pages, all the old words, shredded them, pulped them, made new leaves of paper recycled from the rags, the corpses of syllables and metaphors. Now I must write the world anew, like Shiva with a quill, ink made of time, recreating the world with each stroke. But I'm no Shiva, time is my master. Graying and shabby, I create no cosmos. I only have words. Later that month, my wife's grandmother died, and so no one knew what was going on with COVID, if you remember those days. And we had to trek across Georgia to the mountains to go to a funeral. And I'm on the phone with my friend who works at CDC, and he's telling me, like, put gloves on at the gas station. And so we're all sort of terrified on the way up. So this is the last funeral, Cleveland, Georgia, March 2020. On the cusp of the unraveling, Doris died. Gravity dragged us to North Georgia. I wear my shirt tucked in. When was the last time I did that? What would they say if I did not? I asked the undertaker about COVID precautions. He says, oh, this is it. This is the last funeral. Graveside at the boneyard, he plies his trade with pleasant pablum. She sure was a pretty lady. Her photo gainsays. What fraud compels such petty lies? Do flattery and fables comfort those left behind? Rising from the horizon, I see the ridge of Mount Yonah. Below the cemetery's plateau, a Burger King sign. A nervous deacon leads a reedy song. I can only imagine, he croaks. I guess it's some church song these people know. I can't imagine a drearier way to leave this life. The world is shutting down, closing up shop, while these husks shuffle through this pantomime. Their farce is not mine. To be human is to be created from humus, compounded of rotted ground and breath. When will we divine that death becomes us? Don't pump me full of poison. Don't stuff me like a trophy. Slowly let my bones become soil. Let me feed the earth my flaws. Let me be human when I die. Thank you. Got a couple of Jacksonville poems since, that's our theme. Maybe I should talk about Jacksonville, all right. 32210. West Side Jacksonville is depressing as fuck if you're not from here. Like maybe you got lost and found yourself driving through block after block of cinder block houses on concrete slabs. Everywhere it's flat. Lord knows it's flat. Everything is wet. Lord knows it's wet. You just know no one gets out of here. Well, the Skinner boys did a long time ago, and they got famous calling Alabama home. But maybe there's more to it than you think, more than cinder blocks and heat and mildew. There are little ones toddling across yards, stumbling, squealing, beaming. Old men and young huddled around a 97 F-150 giving advice, cracking wise, drinking beer, telling the same stories, the good ones, as they diagnose, tinker, fix. There are crepe myrtles. They say they're invasive, but they sure look pretty when they're blooming. There are cabbage palms and dogwoods, and on the edges of things where they didn't clear cut, you see old oaks with beards of moss. Then there's that hot Florida sun, always that sun. You see black faces and white faces, brown faces of people from places where Spanish isn't even the first language. Instead, among themselves, they joke and flirt and harangue in ancient tongues of ancestors who raised pyramids from the jungle and made masa tortillas the same way their daughters do today, far across the churning Gulf, inside cinder block houses on flat streets and low-lying neighborhoods without sidewalks. The west side of Jacksonville can be depressing as fuck, unless you open your eyes when you find yourself lost on the way somewhere else on a sunny summer morning. Got a last one here. This one's inspired, modeled, aspires to a poem by Fernando Pessoa, the Portuguese poet, under his pseudonym Alberto Caeiro. This is the old creek bed. The St. John's is more beautiful than the old creek, than the old creek bed running through my yard. But the St. John's is not more beautiful than the old creek bed running through my yard, because the St. John's does not run through my yard. Cargo ships haul their loads past Mayport. Speedboats and weekend fishermen ply the St. John's. If a river remembers anything at all, it remembers French and Spanish caravels and English schooners. The St. John's lazes northward from Lake George, glides through Jacksonville, and enters the Atlantic. Everyone knows that. No one knows the name of the creek bed in my yard. Not even a creek, more like a seasonal stream, a rivulet for the poets. It only exists when it rains, but I know it once ran through here, its course likely right under my house, before they platted and graded a swamp, calling it Murray Hill to attract the suckers. It insists on existing during the heavy rains of summer. I cannot be angry at this ghost of a stream, though it threatens to return my crawl space to the marshland it once was. Any more than I can be angry at the sun for slow roasting Florida for half the year. It was here first and will long outlive me. The St. John's conjoins with the world, beyond Europe, Asia, the Americas, commerce, wealth, and those who seek such. No one has ever thought about the old creek bed that runs through my yard. My old creek bed doesn't make anyone think anything. If you see it, you are simply there. Thank you.